Lord help us, Tampa. For real. The name is a bit on point currently. I saw some of your stuff in there. I hope you guys are doing okay. My dad is out there also. He's northeast, but he'll be in Tampa actually tomorrow because he works restoration. So he was in North Carolina. He'll be out there in Tampa, I think at 3:30 tomorrow morning. He's headed that way. So good luck to you out there. Looks rough. His house got hit, but not too bad. So he got lucky. But I saw a few. I didn't know so many people were from Florida. We were from Florida once upon a time. No longer, sadly. But gladly today, I guess. But we'll take the hurricanes if we have to over what we take here. Pastora, hello. Patricia. If you're in Florida without power, what are you doing here? You should conserve your battery. Unless you're like all generated up, then good for you. Way to be prepared. Oh my gosh. Well, here's the deal. We're going to wait a minute or two, and then I am just going to start reading because I want to cut off just before 7. And then Ghost and I and anybody else who wants to be will just stay in the Discord voice, and we're going to redo some of the rules for Discord. So it can either be a group thing or Ghost and I can just do it on our own, but hopefully y'all have some input so you can be a part of some of that. But we will see. So we're going to keep it like 6:45 Central Time. 45 minutes from now. And then cut off pretty abruptly. Good for you. Good for you. What a rough deal, man. The East Coast just took it hard over the past couple weeks. It is no good. Okay. All right, I guess if you're watching this later while we wait, if I can fix it. Can I fix it? Why, baby girl? There we go. Okay. If you're watching this later, there's a Discord. We have a Discord. There's a link pinned to the live chat. There's also a link in the description of every video, no matter where you're watching. And good place to be. Good people. All the people here are the people there. On top of that, actually, never mind. I'll come back to all that. Join Discord. That's all. Patricia, you should be good on Discord now. Your request, at least. I think you have to like accept it back, but then you're square. Okay, so introduction. Kind of. Basically, just if you haven't been here. This is the beginning. This is part 1 of the second book of Adam and Eve. We read the entirety of the first one. So that's on at Live Bible Study on YouTube if you're watching this somewhere else. This is the beginning of the second one. This is not in the canon. None of this is in the canon. There is a link in the description of the video that will take you to the exact text that I'm reading, and that will show you that this is not in the canon. These are extra canonical texts. This is considered the Forgotten Book of Eden. This is not in your Bible. It will not be in your Bible. Even if you have a Catholic Bible, it probably won't be in there. Just to be super, super clear. This is absolute extra canonical stuff. The timeline is not meant to run concurrent with Genesis. A lot of people seem to keep getting that confused. This is not meant to run side by side with Genesis. This is after Genesis. So Genesis ends. Adam and Eve 1 started. We read that. Now Adam and Eve 2 starts. So it continues that. So we're 3 points in history past Genesis if you take it as actual historical document. Just to be clear. Hello, everyone. I'm a lifelong Floridian. This is standard procedure. What better to use battery I have less than study the Bible with you fine people?
Can you hear
lovely.
me?
I can now. Yeah, you're good. Can you hear me? Patricia?
Okay, good. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm a
Okay.
little delayed, but it's fine. I'm gonna mute
Okay.
myself.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're good whenever. Mystic, what's going on? It's been a while. Yeah. Lord help us Tampa's like my dad. He's like, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. He didn't board anything up. He didn't do anything. I've risen for a second. Is there a reason or just for funsies? All right, I'm going to start reading because we have to cut off. So, second book of Adam and Eve, after the first book, after Genesis. So we are relatively far removed from Genesis in the timeline, regardless of your perspective on whether any of this is real or not. In the story concept, that's where we are. The grief-stricken family, Cain marries Luluwa, and they move away. When Luluwa heard Cain's words, she wept and went to her father and mother and told them how that Cain had killed his brother Abel. And if you remember, that was a whole big dramatic thing at the end of the first book. And it was the same in many points as the story in Genesis, but it also had some differences. So if it was something that you cared to look at, then you need to read back the last couple of chapters of the first Adam and Eve, because they did kind of recount it. Then they all cried aloud and lifted up their voices and slapped their faces and threw dust upon their heads and rent asunder their garments and went out and came to the place where Abel was killed. If this is confusing to you, I'd say read read all of Job, because this was kind of standard procedure in the ancient Eastern parts of the world for religious people specifically, but even outside of some religions. The dust upon the head, the garments, rent asunder their garments. They would rip their garments. If you read Job, he rips his robes as like a sign of grief. This was a normal thing, so this is not weird. This is average. This is in the Bible if you pay attention. And they found him laying on the earth, killed, Abel, and beasts around him, while they wept and cried because of this just one. From his body, by reason of its purity, went forth a smell of sweet spices, which is interesting because that's not the norm. And now it's going to connect you to the first book. And Adam carried him, his tears streaming down his face, and went to the cave of treasures, where he laid him and wound up with sweet spices and myrrh. And Adam and Eve continued by the burial of him in great grief 140 days, 140 days of mourning, which is pretty wild. Even for a lot of older religions, that's a long mourning period. Abel was 15 and a half years old, and Cain 17 years old and a half. As for Cain, when the mourning of his brother was ended, he took his sister Luluwa and married her. So Cain took Luluwa as his wife. We had some drama about that at the end of the first book too, that maybe we'll go back to in case you guys don't remember. He took Luluwa and married her without leave from his father and mother, for they could not keep him from her by reason of their heavy heart. So in mourning, essentially, they're getting married. He then went down to the bottom of the mountain, away from the garden, near to the place where he had killed his brother. And in that place were many fruit trees and forest trees. His sister bare him children, who in their turn began to multiply by degrees until they filled that place. I'm gonna make a prediction, I guess, because this sounds familiar as some other stories outside of the Bible. His sister bare him children, who in their turn began to multiply by degrees until they filled that place. They find this place that is away from the garden, it says, near to the place where he killed his brother, which is a bit in bad taste, but kind of irrelevant at the time. They're finding a new place and they're populating the place. The nation is beginning. A new nation is beginning. His sister bore him children, who in their turn began to multiply by degrees, which is just a way of saying a many, many children, until they filled the place. But as for Adam and Eve, they came not together after Abel's funeral for 7 years. Came together means, got intimate. So they refrained from that for 7 years. After this, however, which is relevant because there is multiplication of humans happening elsewhere between Cain and Luluwa. So the author is trying to make it clear that Adam and Eve are not doing that for a period of 7 years. After this, however, Eve conceived. And while she was with child, Adam said to her, "Come, let us take an offering and offer it up to God, and ask him to give us a fair child, in whom we may find comfort, and whom we may join in marriage with Abel's sister." Now, hey, Ghost. Now, I guess is a good time for some remembering. At the end of the last one, there was this tiff. Hey, Ruth. There was this tiff between Cain, not really between them, more so between Cain and the parents, Adam and Eve, and Abel and Adam and Eve, because there was some argument over who got to marry which sister, because one of the sisters was beautiful and one of them was, I guess, less beautiful, is the way the author kind of depicts it as. So Cain kills Abel, then Cain gets to choose. So he chooses Luluwa. Adam and Eve choosing to have no kids, probably because they're kind of scarred, which makes sense, because one of their kids murdered the other one, which is rough. So now they're having this new kid, and while the baby is in Eve, they're kind of making this proclamation to God of like, give us a fair child, a normal child, a obedient, a well-tempered, a fair one, in whom we may find comfort, in whom we may join in marriage to Abel's sister, because now they need to find a partner for Abel's sister, because that's just how it worked back then, like it or hate it. Then they prepared an offering and brought it up to the altar and offered it before the Lord and began to entreat him to accept their offering and to give them a good offering. And God heard Adam and accepted his offering. Then they worshipped Adam and Eve and their daughter and came down to the cave of treasures and placed a lamp in it to burn by night and by day before the body of Abel. Cave of Treasures has been mentioned twice. So I guess just it's one of those things that we've had several conversations about. What is it? What does it represent? Is it a physical place? Depending on what your perspective is or where you land on it, it would be important to remind yourself to keep that in the back of your head as it gets brought up more, because we've seen it now in another context. So depending on what you believe of it, what you believe it is, whether it's a concept or an actual place, pay attention to context as we read, because that should help you develop kind of your plan. Killed? Is that what that's meant to be? He trumpeted? I don't know. It's cool though. Hi. Did you guys already go over Adam formed in the image of Jesus? In a sense, but that's not in these texts specifically. But we brushed upon that idea at some point, yeah. And God heard Adam and accepted his offering. Then they worshipped Adam and Eve and their daughter and came down to the cave of treasures, so that was the second time, and placed a lamp in it to burn by day and by day before the body of Abel. So at the altar, Abel was present. Then Adam and Eve continued fasting and prayed until Eve's time came that she should be delivered, the baby. When she said to Adam, "I wish to go to the cave in the rock to bring forth in it, to have the baby in it." And he said, "Go and take with you your daughter to wait on you. But I will remain in this cave of treasures before the body of my son, Abel." Adam staying behind, sending the girls to go deal with the birth. Then Eve hearkened to Adam and went, she and her daughter, but Adam remained by himself in the cave of treasures. A third son is born to Adam and Eve. It's trumpet, right? That's how it should. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what to say, because it looks to me like it's supposed to be killed, and the trumpet was meant to trick YouTube. But trumpet, that's an easier thing to say. And he brought forth a son, perfectly beautiful in figure and in countenance. His beauty was like that of his father Adam, yet more beautiful. So he was as beautiful as Adam, except more so. Then Eve was comforted when she saw him. and remained 8 days in the cave. Then she sent her daughter unto Adam to tell him to come and see the child and name him. But the daughter stayed in his place by the body of her brother until Adam returned. So did she. But when Adam came and saw the child's good looks, his beauty, and his perfect figure, he rejoiced over him and was comforted for Abel. Then he named the child Seth. That means, quote, that God has heard my prayer and has delivered me out of my affliction. But it means also power and strength. I'd like to look and see what Seth dials back to in ancient Hebrew. Then after Adam named the child, he returned to the cave of treasures, and his daughter went back to her mother. But Eve continued in her cave until 40 days were fulfilled. Then she came to Adam and brought with her the child and her daughter. Adam thought what about Seth? The description? It's an interesting description. Come together doesn't have the same ring to it as biblically knowing someone. I remember in seminary how many people did not understand what came together meant or knowing someone meant. And it was one of those funny moments where mostly adults had to realize that they were talking about sex, and the shock that went across the room. It was palpable. Patricia says, what does everyone think of the cave? What does everyone think the cave of treasures symbolizes? I'd like to see those answers. I know we've talked about it here and there briefly. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what people say, or if your opinions change, because I remember a lot of what people have said. I wonder if anyone's opinion has changed.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
All I can find on Seth is it means compensation or substitute.
Okay, that makes more sense to me. I've never, not that I would remember, but I don't remember ever seeing these descriptions. That God has heard my prayer and delivered me out of affliction, or power and strength. I would believe more power and strength. The first one just seems kind of made up. But I'm not surprised that that's what you found either. A lot of the name stuff is BS, I've found.
Yeah, especially in this book. I mean, a lot of it seems very spurious.
Yeah, it's just some guy's opinion. Patricia, what do you think, Joe? Maybe we talk at the end about it. I'm wishy-washy. I like Ghost's idea of what it is, probably more than anything else.
I think it's just the center of everything. So that would include the planet, but also our own thoughts, like
right.
What you center your thoughts around.
Right. I like it. Makes more sense to me. I think you'd have a hard time. I guess the more we've read this, and the more I've thought, and the more I've read back. I've done a lot of rereading after we've done these, and I've had a very hard time trying to make kind of a literal or logical conclusion to it. It seems all encompassing because of the variety and like the spectrum of the context that's used. And that's like, and granted, that's just from these. And so maybe I should explore beyond that to like really develop a view of it. But I guess just within the context of these two texts, which is not where we should like develop an entire belief on this, but within these contexts, I tend to lean very, very far towards kind of Ghost's description of it. I don't see what else would make sense, I guess is the problem. Store up your treasures in heaven. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. And maybe as we read more of this, and we'll learn something new. I don't know. It's something that I've been slowly pulling sources outside of apocryphal text because I'm curious how wide it goes. And then I think whenever I get to the end of that, which is going to take time, I'll be interested to see, I guess, what else I learned through that. And I'll definitely share that. But in this tight context, I think what Ghost said is probably it makes the most sense. It makes the most sense. It covers most of the context. It covers all of the context and all the uses of it in here. And anything outside of that, I just have I've had a hard time trying to make it work. And if you have to try really hard to make something work, it's probably not true. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time. Okay. I think 5. But Eve continued in her cave until 40 days were filled when she came to Adam and brought with her the child and her daughter, the beautiful baby boy child. And they came to the river of water, where Adam and his daughter washed themselves because of their sorrow for Abel. But Eve and the babe washed for purification. That'd be something interesting to come back to, too. Eve and the babe washed for purification. Unless they just mean literally. Then there's nothing there, which would make sense. After the birth of a child, it would make sense to wash both the mother and the child. Perhaps there's more, perhaps there's not anything more to that at all. Then they returned and took an offering and went to the mountain and offered it up for the babe, and God accepted their offering and sent his blessing upon them and upon their son Seth. And they came back to the cave of treasures. As for Adam, he knew not again his wife Eve, meaning they no longer slept together, all the days of his life. Neither was any more offspring born of them, obviously, but only those 5, Cain, Luluwa, Abel, Akliah, and Seth alone. But Seth waxed in stature and in strength and began to fast and pray fervently. Chapter 3. Satan appears as a beautiful... God, here we go again. Satan appears as a beautiful woman, tempting Adam, telling him he is still a youth. Spend thy youth in mirth and pleasure. The different forms which Satan takes. So in normal people terms, a fine-ass woman is what Satan is going to pretend to be, and she is going to try to convince Adam that he needs to sexually act out. As for our father Adam, at the end of 7 years, from the day he had been severed from his wife Eve, Satan envied him when he saw him thus separated from her and strove to make him live with her again. I wish they gave more context on that. Why? Real quick. As for Adam, he knew not Eve again all the days of his life. Why? We get nothing for this. Neither was any more offspring born of them, obviously, but only those 5, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they give you nothing. So I feel like that's important context. What is the reason? I guess within his story, it's not going to matter. So Satan envied him, and when he saw him thus separated from Eve, they're no longer sexually involved, he strove to make him live with her again. Oh. Okay. Then Adam arose and went up above the cave of treasures and continued to sleep there night by night. So Adam was on the couch, it seems like. But as soon as it was light every day, he came down to the cave to pray there and to receive a blessing from it. But when it was evening, he went up on the roof of the cave, where he slept by himself, fearing lest Satan should overcome him. And he continued thus apart 39 days. This author, it's super suspicious. Very, very thought-provoking, but super suspicious. And it's aggravating, because he didn't do a good job of painting thorough pictures. It just leaves so many questions. Then Satan the hater, because it's making it seem like here. He's making it seem like there's, like Adam wants to sleep with Eve, but he's not for some reason. And so Adam is afraid that Satan is going to convince him to sleep with Eve. So why aren't they sleeping together to begin with? And what's more confusing is the beginning, the italic text at the top. Satan appears as a beautiful woman to tempt Adam. So is Satan going to tempt him as a beautiful woman to sleep with his wife, or to sleep with him as a beautiful woman? It's very confusing so far. Mystic said, I feel like I have to hold my tongue reading this. It's so unserious. Yeah, for sure. for sure. Ruth said the Book of the Cave of Treasures is an actual sacred text found in PDF form online. There is, yes. But there's mention many other places. That's what I'm curious about, is to like kind of get out of the silo of apocryphal stuff and move into more Jewish stuff. Because I feel like you'll find some grounding points. And I've been gathering the sources, but I have not gotten into it yet, just because of life. But I'm trying to gather everything so I can just sit down and, you know, spend an hour here, an hour there, whatever I can do. But yes, that is true. And I have that too. And I have used Control F to look through it. That's as far as I've gotten in it. I feel like all the Apocrypha are Bible fan fiction. Not all fan fiction is equal, though. Yeah. And that's a good way to look at it, I think. The drama is making me feel like I'm 12 listening to my friends. God. Well, just wait, because you've missed a lot, and it gets so much worse than this. That's almost quote. That's so funny. Okay. All right, well, let's see, because I'm curious how this is going to play out. So he's sleeping on top of the cave. He's basically sleeping on the couch, is the way that I perceive that. As soon as it's light, he's going down. He's praying and receiving a blessing from it. And then when evening comes, he's going back to the roof, where he sleeps by himself, fearing that Satan should overcome him. And he continues thus apart 39 days. Then Satan, the hater of all good, when he saw Adam thus alone, fasting and praying, appeared to him in the form of a beautiful woman, who is not Eve, from what I'm gathering, who came and stood before him in the night of the 40th day, and said to him, O Adam, from the time you have dwelt in this cave, we have experienced great peace from you, and your prayers have reached us, and we have been comforted by you. But now, O Adam, that you have gone up over the roof of the cave to sleep, we have had doubts about you, and a great sorrow has come upon us because of your separation from Eve. Okay. Then again, when you are on the roof of this cave, your prayer is poured out, and your heart wanders from side to side. But when you waste in the cave your prayer, when you were in the cave, your prayer was like fire gathered together. It came down to us, and you did find rest. Then I also grieved over your children who are severed from you, and my sorrow is great about the murder of your son Abel, for he was righteous, and over a righteous man everyone will grieve. But I rejoiced over the birth of your son Seth. Yet after a little while, I sorrowed greatly over Eve, because she is my sister. What? What is going on? For when God sent a deep sleep over you and drew her out of your side, he brought me out also with her. But he raised her by placing her with you, while he lowered me. Bro, I rejoiced over my sister for her being with you. But God has made me a promise before and said, grieve not. When Adam has gone up on the roof of the cave of treasure, Jesus Christ. When Adam has... Let me restart. I'm sorry. Composure is going to be difficult. So God made a promise to Satan, who is masquerading as Eve's sister. The promise God made to Satan, who is masquerading as Eve's sister, was this. Grieve not. When Adam has gone up on the roof of the cave of treasures and is separated from Eve, his wife, I will send you to him. You will join yourself to him in marriage and bear him 5 children, as Eve did. Bear him 5. This is wild. This is wild. What a specific directive from God to obviously fake, like Satan's making it up. But what a terrible lie. How oddly specific. And now, lo, God's promise to me is fulfilled. For it is he who has sent me to you for the wedding. Because if you wed me, I shall bear you finer and better children than those of Eve. This is great fan fiction. I don't care what y'all say. Then again, you are as yet but a youth. You are young and spry, Adam. Those are my words. End not your youth in this world in sorrow, but spend the days of your youth in mirth and pleasure. For your days are few, and your trial is great. I thought he was youthful, but his days are few. Be strong and your days in this world in rejoicing. I shall take pleasure in you, and you shall rejoice with me in this wise and without fear. Up then, and fulfill the command of your God, not our God, your God. Then she drew near to Adam and embraced him. But when Adam saw that he should be overcome by her, he prayed to God with a fervent heart to deliver him from her. Then God sent his word unto Adam, saying, O Adam, this figure is one that promised you. Oh, here we go. This figure is the one that promised you the Godhead and majesty. He is not favorably disposed towards you, but shows himself to you at one time in the form of a woman, another moment in the likeness of an angel, on another occasion in the similitude of a serpent, and at another time in the semblance of God, of a God. But he does all that only to destroy your soul, baby boy. Now, therefore, O Adam, understanding your heart, I have delivered you many a times from his hands. Yeah, no shit. So many times God has delivered him from the hands of Satan. I have delivered thee many times from his hands, in order to show you that I am a merciful God, and that I wish you good, and that I do not wish you ruin. I need somebody who has time in the day to go back through Adam and Eve 1 and count how many times Adam was tricked by Satan. I would love to see that number, because it is so many times. It is an atrocious amount of times. Plot twist. The roof of the cave is a strange place. It is. And actually, I didn't think about it any deeper because of the immediate context. I thought was amusing, and that it seems like Adam is sleeping on the couch. But it is interesting, actually, and I need to think about that more. Actually, I don't know why I've been gone. Why did no one tell me this is what I've been missing? Yeah, we're in the Apocrypha every Thursday night now. So if you want to be entertained, at least come on Thursday. You'll be adequately entertained. The author has some kinks that he needs to get out without being stoned. Please, poor guy didn't have Wattpad, and this is the best he could do. What? Adam wants to be a monk. I thought that's what said similitude of a serpent. Slimilitude of a serpent? No, not quite. The other word is the legitimate word. I thought it said, I'm not saying that. Like snake, Ozempic, Jesus Christ. This is wild. The word of God is Michael, Archangel, the priest, king of heaven. What? Pseudoscience University. You're going to need to add some context there. Adam sees the devil in his true colors for the 30,000th time since this all started. Then God ordered Satan to show himself to Adam in his own hideous form. But when Adam saw him, he feared and trembled at the sight of him. And God said to Adam, look at this devil. Actually, hold on. There's been significantly less of the same type of, Old English? Has anybody else noticed that? Maybe I'm noticing it because I'm reading it, and maybe you're not going to, because I would kind of translate as I read in the other one. A lot of this is very Old Englishy with the these and the thous and the thys. I try to best I can translate it into like modern speak as I read it. I know a lot of words slip here and there, but I do my best to do that. But I've noticed a dramatic decrease in the Old English just from the last one to this one. Maybe you guys haven't because of me trying to read it normally. But that's something I definitely notice, just so everybody's aware. Seventh-day Adventists. What about them? I understand why they believe it, but I'm not convinced. Seventh-day Adventists. Oh, about Michael, the Archangel? Yeah. Yeah. Pseudoscience, is that where you land? No hate, just curious. Okay, anyways. Then God ordered Satan to show himself.
I grew up SDA, so I'm not disparaging him. Sorry.
Did you really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what I was in the church. I was born in Battle Creek, Michigan, where the church was founded.
I didn't know that. Do you know a lot about it, or were you kind of disengaged?
No, I mean, I know enough. I know the core tenets, and there's a lot that I actually subscribe to. They're annihilationists as well, so you know,
Interesting. That's good to
yeah.
know. Okay. Whoa, new ghost lore just dropped. I'll send the word of God
I
to
swear
Adam.
I've said that before, but maybe like
You
y'all didn't remember or
you
something.
probably have. I probably just forgot. But I'll
It's
remember
okay.
now. I'll remember now because that's interesting. And I don't know a lot about it. I know very surface level. I know more about like the Mormon system of
A lot
belief.
of people classify them as a cult, and I wouldn't call them a cult at all.
Same
But
with Mormons though. They do the same thing. And I don't know.
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
suppose so.
Yeah. I don't
Anyways,
see any of this stuff as any different than really any of the other ones. Everybody
yeah.
believes different stuff. El sent the word of God to Adam. The word of God is the angel of the Lord that appeared in the burning bush, who is like Elion. El Elyon. New ghost lord just dropped. Yeah, I don't know. I'll remember that. Is that I am my knowledge of of the Mormon belief goes somewhat deep, but of like
Who's
LDS and
El?
SDA, I don't know much about. Michael is the trumpet and the voice of God in Theso. I don't want to explain L because I'm like I just said, I don't know enough. Ghost can pop in if he wants to, or else we can look at it together at the
That's
end.
gonna be a long segue.
Okay, then maybe at the end.
Maybe we can talk about it later. Like, just write it down.
Okay, done. You weren't super delayed, Patricia. It was all right. And check if you're on Wi-Fi. I know it's cell service sometimes will delay you a little bit.
We
We've
can
got
do it another day.
okay. Yeah, we'll get to it
Yeah.
because I'd like to hear it too, honestly. We've got like 10 more minutes, and then we're gonna shut down YouTube and get to some of the Discord business. So anybody
Yeah,
who's
I'm on
on
Wi-Fi, but I live in the country, so
that could
pretty
do it
bad.
too. Yeah, latency. Graves, I just saw you too. Good to see you. Anybody on YouTube, in 10 minutes, we're going to shut YouTube down. If you're in Discord, which I'm sure all of you are, well, actually, there's 2 of you at least that aren't. Go to Discord. If you guys aren't in Discord and you're on YouTube and you'd like to join Discord, it's free. There's a link at the top of the live chat there. We're going to be rewriting some of the rules in Discord, anybody who wants to. Otherwise, I guess Ghost and I will just look at it and kind of revise some of it. But we're going to shut down like 10 minutes earlier than normal to do that. So when YouTube shuts off, go to Discord. The voice channel that's on right now is just going to stay on. Okay. So God said, Adam, look at the devil, his hideous look. Yeah, I don't think I read that. Okay, so Adam sees the devil in his true colors. Adam saw him, he feared him. Look at this devil and at his hideous look, and know that he it is who made you fall from brightness into darkness, and from peace and rest to toil and misery. And look, O Adam, at him who said of himself that he is God. Can God be, I don't want to say that. Can God be black? Would God take the form of a woman? Oh, now we're getting into the author's real beliefs. I assume this black is not what everybody in 2024 would immediately think. I am extremely confident this is in reference to something else, just to be very clear. However, would God take the form of a woman is exactly what it sounds like. And just keep in mind that this is the author. This is not the Bible, nor is it me, just to be very, very clear. Would God take the form of a woman? Is there anyone stronger than God? And can he be overpowered? See then, O Adam, and behold him, bound in your presence in the air, unable to flee away. Therefore I say to you, be not afraid of him. Henceforth, take care and beware of him, and whatever he may do to you. Then God drove Satan away from before Adam, whom he strengthened and whose heart he comforted, saying to him, go down to the cave of treasures and separate not yourself from Eve, and I will quell in you all animal lust. The underlying what is going on right now has me extremely confused. So now it seems as though God is joining them back together. We don't know why they were separated to begin with, but okay. From that hour, it left Adam and Eve, and they enjoyed rest by the commandment of God. But God did not the like to any one of Adam's seed. But God did not the like to any one of Adam's seed, but only to Adam and Eve. Then Adam worshiped before the Lord for having delivered him and for having laid his passions. And he came down from above the cave and dwelled with Eve as aforetime. This ended the 40 days of his separation from Eve. We have time for one more. I hope that we get some clarity because this is wild. Your few seconds of silence was so loud. The devil paints a brilliant picture for Seth to feast his thoughts upon. Good God. As for Seth, when he was 7 years old, he knew good and evil and was
very in depth.
What do you mean? Explain that.
Saying so much and nothing at the same time.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought the first one was bad. This is much worse, in my opinion. It's much worse. As for Seth, Seth was 7 years old. He knew good and evil. He was consistent in fasting and praying, and he spent all his nights in entreating God for mercy and forgiveness. He also fasted when bringing up his offering every day, more than his father did, for he was of a fair countenance, like unto an angel of God. He also had a good heart, preserved the finest qualities of his soul, and for this reason he brought up his offering every day. And God was pleased with his offering, but he was also pleased with his purity. And he continued thus in doing the will of God and of his father and mother until he was 7 years old. What? He is 7 years old. As for Seth, when he was 7 years old, yada, 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 until he was 7 years old. I guess just continue.
This author.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder, I'm making a prediction. I don't know if I'm right, but I wonder if this author believes that the sons of God in Genesis 6:4 are Sethites and not Watchers or Elohim. Because he's trying to make Seth out as some kind of perfect guy.
Right.
I'm just wondering.
No, that's an interesting point. I'm glad you said that. It has now been said. So as we continue, I wouldn't be surprised to see that come absolutely true. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Don't worry, that's a typo. This is just a rough draft. I assume I know what you're talking about, Mystic, but it's in reference to the part right before. Hold on. I guess I should have explained this. So, and look, oh Adam, because how do I want to explain this? Can God be black? Would God take the form of a woman? You can make the argument, like, look into this author. If the author had a tendency for that in the 2024 perspective of what you might think that means, then fair point. What makes more sense based on the earlier book and the paragraph right before is fall from brightness into darkness. I'm sorry I didn't explain that. I kind of just kept going. In context, this makes sense to me. So unless we find out this guy in 1926 was just some kind of supreme racist, the context is there. But I wouldn't be surprised either way. To be fair, to be transparent and honest and whatever, wouldn't be surprised either way. But the context is available, and there was a lot about the darkness around the two in the first book too. But it was pretty abrupt, man. You never know. You never know. Nothing would surprise me with this guy yet. So Seth is 7 years old. He is lovely and wonderful, and all of the things that Adam was not is kind of the vibe that I'm getting. After that, as he was coming down...
He says, can God be a woman right after it, so I kind of take a more literal stance when I'm reading that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I could definitely see it going either way.
Not that I agree with it, though.
No, of course not. I'd be interested if anybody looks into the author and you find anything else by him that would add context to any of what we've wondered or thought about. I would love to see it. Nothing would surprise me, and I honestly haven't looked in this author at all.
It seems kind of redundant to me because he's basically saying, can God be a lowborn? Can God be of lesser status? But we already know Jesus was. So, like, why is he asking that?
It doesn't quite make sense. That's why it either has to be the immediate context, which it makes as much sense as anything else has, which is not like very little sense, or it's just the author putting in, his own little bits there. I'm trying to
I think so.
him up real quick. That's what it seems like, especially in the second one, because I've seen a lot of that already. Like from memory, it seems like a lot more of that is happening here than happened in the first one. So it looks like the lost books of the Bible,
But Platt is just an editor. He's not the original writer.
Did he compile or just edit?
I guess he compiled and edited, but he didn't. It wasn't like his writing. So
right, I'm trying to pull up on another screen if he puts any of his sources anywhere, and it doesn't appear like it does. Has anybody looked at this? Where does he say he got it from? Like, what's the origin of it?
I honestly haven't looked into it.
Okay, because it's showing nothing for me. And I feel like we looked at the beginning. Maybe Scott found something, or maybe I'm thinking about something else. But I don't see anything about like origin of compilation. I don't know. I'll look at it later. Now I'm really.
I wish Mikkel were here because this pseudoscience guy is talking about plasma beams. So.
Oh man.
We'll have to tell him to watch this episode.
Yeah, Pseudo, if you're not in Discord, go there and then tag Mikkel. Mikel. He would love to talk to you about this stuff. All right, we got to roll out of here in 2 minutes. So let me just finish this. So after that, this is all Seth. After that, as he was coming down from the altar, having ended his offering, Satan appeared to him in the form of a beautiful angel. So what is happening to Seth is what happened to Adam 1,000 times. Brilliant with light, with a staff of light in his hand, himself girt about with a girdle of light. He greeted Seth with a beautiful smile and began to beguile him with fair words, saying to him, O Seth, why abidest thou in this mountain? Why are you in this mountain? For it is rough, full of stones and of sand, and of trees, with no good fruit on them, a wilderness without habitations and without towns, no good place to dwell in. But all is heat, weariness, and trouble. He said further, Satan, but we dwell in beautiful places, in another world, like that, in another world than this world. Our world is one of light, and our condition is of the best. Our women are handsomer than any around, or any others, and I wish you, O Seth, to wed one of them, because I see that you are fair to look upon, you are handsome. And in this land, there is not one woman good enough for you. Besides, all those who live in this world are only 5 souls, which was spoken about at the beginning. But in our world, there are very many men and many maidens, all more beautiful one than another. I wish, therefore, to remove you hence, that you may see my relations and be wedded to whichever you like. You shall then abide by me and be at peace. You shall be filled with splendor and light, as we are. You shall remain in our world and rest from this world in the misery of it. You shall never again feel faint or weary. That's interesting. You shall never bring up an offering, nor sue for mercy, for you shall commit no more sin, nor be swayed by passions. And if you will hearken to what I say, you shall wed one of my daughters, for with us it is no sin to do so. There is no sin to do so, to marry one of his daughters. Neither is it reckoned animal lust. That's a new word. I'm almost positive. Reckoned. For in our world we have no God, but we all are gods. We all are the light, heavenly, powerful, strong, and glorious. Now it's getting interesting. So we don't have time for this, so we'll continue this next week. But Seth's conscience helps him. He returns to Adam and Eve. Huh. Fun fact, Joe is also supreme. Shut the hell up. He is talking about the anthropomorphic plasma being fallen from light into the darkness and is taking physical form. Pseudo, I hope you go to Discord because I would like to read this conversation. This future conversation to be. All right, YouTube, you are going to get shut down. You should go to Discord. This is Discord. If you choose to do so, there is a link in the top of the pinned. There's a link pinned to the top of the live chat on YouTube. It's there right now. It says join Discord. There's also a link in the description of every video on this YouTube channel. We're going to shut YouTube off. We're going to go to the voice channel that's open right now that you see on the screen right now with all the people's faces in it, all those beautiful people. And we're going to rewrite some of the rules in Discord because we have more people, we have new personalities, and we just want to make sure we stay up on all that. So YouTube is getting shut off right meow, and we'll see you in Discord. Pseudo, I hope you come because I would like to see that conversation. All right, good to go. Love you.